Welcome to Musings of a Super Doer with host Christina Kendall. Over the next hour, you will learn what keeps Christina and her guests busy with all their day-to-day life tasks. Now, here's Christina.
Hello there. Welcome to Musings of a Super Doer. I'm your host and resident super doer, Kris Kendall. I'm so happy that you're joining us today. Today we're going to be using about lots of things. It's been a very busy week. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is skilled labor, like the trades. And I'll also share some musings about video games. This is more of a soapbox, my personal, well, I guess most of the things we talk about are a soapbox. And then I have a few other things to include, including solar panels and some of the changes we have planned in our house related to solar panels. So I'm just going to jump right in. All right. So I have two sons that are adults now. One's 18 and one's 21. And as they were growing up, their education was very important to me. We put them in private school when they were through elementary school, and they did go to public school for middle and high school. And it was always in the plan that they would go to college, right? I mean, that's the next step in the journey. And so when my older son was like a sophomore, junior in high school, um, he was very involved in Boy Scouts and really into outdoorsy things, and very hands-on. He was very active in the auto tech department at his school, that program, like the automotive program, and he revived and essentially started and ran the automotive club at his high school for the years that he was there. And so he was pretty sure he wanted to get involved in some kind of a trade, probably related to cars, mechanics of some kind, but didn't really have a strong interest in college. Now, I really felt like it was some sort of a failure on my part if my kid didn't at least go to college, attempt it in some way. So we went and visited a couple colleges, a couple schools that I thought he would like. He had a strong interest in a few schools, and we were at the point where I think he was planning to go for at least 1 year just to sort of get the experience and see how it went. But then COVID hit in his senior year of high school. And he's definitely not a distance learning kid. So paying for a year of college for him to be at home or locked in a dorm alone was not going to work out. So anyways, he did not. We just kind of scrapped that plan, and he decided to go straight to work. He initially, while he was still in high school, took a job because he was at home, working remote in the early days of COVID. He immediately took a job at Amazon, working in one of the local fulfillment centers. And it was very flexible because he could pretty much just take shifts anytime he wanted. It was a flex position. So if he wanted to work today or tomorrow, he could just sign up for that shift if it was available. And if he didn't want to work, he didn't have to take a shift, and he just had to commit to a couple per month or something like that. So that worked out well for a little while, but then it got harder for him to get shifts. And so he started applying for these technician positions at companies, local companies. And we really, I didn't really know what he was applying for, but he felt confident that he can do it. So he took a job at a local company as a entry-level millwright, so a welder. And this was in summer of 2020, and he was just put to work immediately. So this company gets contracts from other companies, in the area. And whenever they have equipment that breaks or needs maintenance or repairs or whatever, they call my son's company and they get a technician out there to do the work. So he jumped right into it. Every day he was at a different location, and he learned all the different types of equipment and how to troubleshoot and what the obvious um causes of problems often were. And before we knew it, he was like a real millwright. And he's done a couple certifications since then. He learned how to weld from his dad, so he already had that skill, but it wasn't like official. And so, anyways, he's now been doing that for 3 years, and he really likes it. He's very happy, and he makes great money and lots of bonuses and overtime and that kind of stuff. So that's been really great. Now, my younger son is much more studious and academic, and I thought for sure he's going to go to college. He was really into baseball for a while, so I thought, we'll get him into a school that has a decent baseball program. I mean, not like D1 or anything, but like, just a program that he could enjoy and stick with baseball for a little bit longer, maybe. And now that he is a senior, he has decided he is not going to college either. He wants to go straight to work, also in the trades. And he is going, so at his school right now, he's taking the automotive tech course, which is for 2 periods. He's also taking a welding class for 2 periods. So he only has 2 regular periods, every day. He has English, which is all 4 years of high school, and, the required class as a senior is, government and economics. So, like, one semester's government, the other semester's economics. So, those are his only, like, 2 real classes, and then the rest is automotive tech and welding. So, he's super into welding, and his brother's doing it, making good money. So, he has decided that he is gonna go to tech school and, you know, become a welder. And I think this summer, right after he graduates high school, we've got a couple trips planned, but after that, he wants to actually go work offshore, um, on a rig or whatever that means, and do like underwater welding, which sounds very scary and dangerous, but I guess it pays very well and it's a very in demand position. And so we were talking about this, and he's been talking about this with his teachers quite a bit, that there's such a strong demand for tradespeople. A lot of kids, and this has probably been happening over the past like 10 or 15 years, maybe. They aren't interested in doing what their dads did or what their grandpas did. They want to be influencers. They want to do what Mark Zuckerberg did. They're going to start the next bazillion-dollar company. And so either that means they go to college and they study business and programming and all this stuff, which is great. That's wonderful. Or they think they can do it the way a lot of these, techie guys have done it by not going to college or dropping out after a year, and they're just gonna get lucky and figure it out and put it together on their own. Um, but not a lot of people in this age group are choosing to become a plumber or an electrician or a contractor, construction carpenter, any of these trades that are really crucial to the success of this country, right? I mean, we need people who can build stuff and fix stuff. And we're running out of people who can do that because they're all aging. They've been around working for 30, 40 years. They're retiring now. And over the next probably 10 or 20 years, we're going to have this, you know, exodus of tradespeople. And it's going to get harder and harder to find skilled labor. I was just talking to a friend an hour ago. She had a leaky faucet in her house, and the cost to have it fixed, and it was like 15 minutes. She said literally she was watching the clock 15 minutes from the time the guy showed up to the time he left. Um, it was like $700 for this fix, this simple fix. So, but she didn't know how to do it. Her husband didn't know how to do it. And there's not a lot of options, right? Um, so I think that actually tradesmen and women are going to not only be in a, you know, be kind of in this highly sought after position, but they're going to actually be in a position of power where they can really start to charge very premium rates just because they're so hard to come by, right? I mean, it used to be a time where a plumber, would come to your house and work for an hour or whatever, and maybe it's $100 or a couple $100. In the coming years, when there's a lot more demand than availability for people to fill that demand, a plumber to come to your house for an hour and do, not really pleasant stuff in your house, in a stranger's house, might cost 1,000 or a couple $1,000s, right? I mean, this is just the reality of supply and demand. So, my son and I were talking about this last night, how he, he he's got a lot of friends who are leaving for college next year, which again is awesome. I wanted my kids to do that route as well. Um, but they don't really have any skills right now. And they probably are not going to learn any skills through the rest of their life, hard like skills, I guess. Not they're going to learn how to code, they're going to learn how to do um, business things, are going to learn how to use spreadsheets better and, accounting or whatever their interest is. But those hard skills like changing a tire, changing a faucet, installing a water heater or the filter in the back of your refrigerator, your ice maker, like those kind of things that most people either learn hands-on, like from their parents, their family, people in their life, or maybe they just spent time in those kind of labor jobs early in their career while they were, going to college or before college, something like that. Like, um, 20 years ago, there were like when I was in high school or whatever, I had friends who worked like in a garden center. My husband worked in the garden center at one of the local stores, so he knew all about plants and gardening. We have a friend who, when he was in high school, he worked for a masonry company and like cleaning off old bricks or something like that. But people had those jobs and they learned, right? I mean, there were a lot of those opportunities to like hire cheap labor, get some high school kids in there, pay them, I don't know, minimum wage to do this kind of labor intensive stuff that they were happy to do. They learned something that they could take with them for the rest of their lives. And maybe it would spark an interest and they would want to stick with that trade and sort of work their way up in that company. Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe they would leave for college and go become a programmer or businessman or, doctor, nurse, whatever, what field that they were interested in, but they still had those skills. Right now, um, kids don't have skills, unless they were like specifically taught something. My kids were specifically taught a lot of things. Um, first through Boy Scouts because they did all the merit badges and they learned all of those types of life skills through Boy Scouts, but also my husband's super hands-on, so he did all the work on the house, all the work on the cars, the tracks. They built this race buggy from literally from the ground up, chassis to everything, and have taken it racing and broken it many times and then had to rebuild it. And so, and rebuilding a house, lots of remodeling. They have a lot of those kind of skills that will carry on regardless of what occupation they end up in. But that is not the common situation, right? We are at a point in our history where we're going to start really noticing how difficult it is to get skilled labor for anything home related, company related, industrial stuff, HVAC, whatever it is. Those things are going to be going away. And um, I know that government officials, the administration, et cetera, they are, I think, really trying to push trade school as an option, as a viable, respectable option. And And I think that's great. I mean, I think it needs to be something that isn't stigmatized as like something that, the dumb kids do, or the lazy kids, or the people who couldn't get into a college or couldn't afford a college or something like that. That is absolutely not the case. I mean, my younger son has perfect grades. I mean, he's a straight A student. He really could have gotten into some very prestigious colleges if that was, his interest. And he has the very balanced background. He has, some really cool experiences and lots of volunteerism, etc. Like he would be a perfect candidate for um, some pretty impressive schools, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to go into the trades. And so, I'm really happy that he's making a decision based on doing something that he's going to enjoy and that will be actually useful. A lot of people go into a profession that they enjoy, but that maybe will never make any money, or that has a very low demand, or so niche that it's hard to find the right employer or the right group of people who want to pay for that skill or that form of entertainment or whatever it is. And so, the good news for me is that the boys are going to be okay, right? They're going to, they have skills currently, and they're going to be improving and expanding on those skills to the point that they'll be able to um, always find a job regardless of what they end up doing. But it's a rare situation these days, and I hope that more families encourage their kids, especially those kids that are not academically inclined. I mean, we know who our kids are. Some kids love school and are going to do well in college, others don't. And for us to push them to go to college and sort of not only waste a couple years of their life, but also a ton of money and maybe get into a ton of debt, when we know that ultimately they're probably not going to be super successful in whatever field we think that they should be going into, or that they are going to major in, but you know, it's because it's the easy way to go, not because it's anything actually useful or that's going to make them money. The trades are a very viable and respectable option for everybody, not just boys. I mean, I'm talking about boys because I have boys, but certainly for women, all of the trades, you know, uh, are just as accessible to women as they are to men. And um, I hope to, I look forward to seeing more and more women electricians and carpenters. And, we watch the show, not Tough Jobs, but the reality show. I can't even think of what it is. It's with, I think it's the guy from Amazing Race. And there's like an equal number of women in these hardcore um roles and like real life occupations that come onto the show to compete at how tough they are and try to win prize money. So that's really cool. Anyways, I don't really have a point to this other than to say we need to be encouraging our young adults to investigate trade jobs, trade positions, and learn some skills that'll actually be valuable to them in life and to future employers, whoever they end up working for. And if they are not the type that wants to be snaking toilets for their lifetime, which I completely respect. I certainly don't want to either. I wouldn't have wanted to at any point in my life. Um, there's always management, right? I mean, you start by actually doing the trade, but then you've got to there needs to be a manager, there needs to be the owner of the company, there needs to be, the business people behind it. So even for those kids that are on a college path and they are interested in accounting or business management or marketing or whatever field, all of those are going to be highly in demand in these trade specific occupations, whatever they may be. So, okay, I guess that's enough on that for right now. I'll give you guys a break and I'll step off that soapbox and get ready for my next one. So, we will take a quick break. So, go grab a snack, check your stocks. Haven't even, oh, looks like maybe they're down today. I don't know. Um, go see what's going on. And when we get back, I'm going to hop on a different soapbox and talk about video games and my thoughts on those.
Join us on the show at 866 472 5788. That's 866 472 5788. Now, back to the show.
Hey, friends. If you're just joining us, I'm Kris Kendall, host of Musings of a Super Doer. Before the break, we were talking about skilled labor and tradespeople and all that good stuff. And now I want to jump into some musings about video games. Now, like most of the topics that I bring up, I have a pretty strong opinion about these. um, but okay, so let me just start at the beginning. My kids really never played a lot of video games. We had a handful of like leapfrog educational kind of video game toys in the house when they were little. And we had the Wii, was it Nintendo Wii, whatever, when that came out, but that was mostly for like sort of active games like playing tennis or running and jumping, track and field kind of silly games, not really like the shoot 'em, kill 'em kind of games. Um, for a brief while, I won a video game console at work a while ago, and I got an Xbox, I think it was at the time. I don't remember which one, but I think I won an Xbox and I brought that home with Halo was the game. And so we let the kids play that for a little while. Maybe they were into it for 6 months, but they kind of got over it and were never really into it because they were very active. They were always outside. They were always on bikes or doing other things, and they had sports and stuff like that. So they just were never really video game kids, and that was fine. Um, but that was also very intentional. I was very strict, and uh, I still would be if I had more kids in the house or grandkids or whatever, about never allowing violent video games. So, like Grand Theft Auto, or I don't even know what all the violent video games are these days, but like there was no way in hell my kids were ever allowed to even see something like that. And it's possible that when they were at a friend's house, if those kids had it, maybe they did play it, but I don't think so. But maybe. But the point is that I really don't understand, and I think I'm talking mostly to parents of like young kids. Like if you've got a kid that's maybe 8 or younger, they've probably not been exposed to violent video games yet, I hope. And I am urging those parents to take a hard line and be very strict against allowing their kids to play them, whether dad plays them, uncles play them, teenage siblings play them. You know, by the time you've got like a 12-year-old, if they're already playing these games, it's too late. You missed the boat, and what's done is done, and whatever happens is going to happen. You know, it's too late. But if you have little ones that you are still, able to really control what they interact with and what they play with, because you're the one buying the stuff and you're the one, you really know what they get exposure to. I urge you to be very strict about not allowing these violent video games. I think that they're really a strong reason we have so much aggression, and they blame all these shootings on guns, and obviously the guns are used in the shootings, but I think that guns have been around for a long time, and people didn't go around murdering other people just because guns existed. I think right now we're at this stage in American society, at least, and this is probably happening more and more often in other countries that have these kind of video games, where people kids are learning to disassociate humanity from like actual humans. And so when they play these games where they are shooting and killing women, police officers, other people, people on the other team, whatever the situation is, it's like a rush that they get, when you win a game. I mean, I get that too. If I were playing a game and that was my goal and I did it, then I would probably be pretty excited too. Um, and it's hard. I think that it's easier for some people who get in the habit, especially from a young age, of killing people, even if it's pretend people in a video game. I mean, the graphics are getting very realistic, right? So I don't know that you can truly play a game like that and not have some level of, you know, without considering it to be almost real, like it feels so real, that it's not, that it's just a game. But I think at some level inside you, there's this feeling of it being real. And I think that makes it easier for some kids, some people, adults, whatever, if they have maybe a mental instability or a breakdown of some kind, or they just can't cope with reality in the way that most of us can. It's very easy for them to pick up a gun and walk into a school or to a shopping center or a movie theater and murder people, like real people, like they've done it so many times in these video games and they win and they feel good and it's exciting that it's not healthy. I'm not a doctor. I don't know any of the science behind it. I don't know any of the psychology behind this, but this is just me again on my soapbox as a parent. I feel like it's really important for us to be that first level of censorship, if you want to call it that, for our young kids, and we keep them away from bad language, from inappropriate images, for as long as possible. But in many cases, people allow the video games that are just so destructive mentally and emotionally to developing adolescents that I'm just kind of want to remind people and remind parents that they're still in charge, at least, like I said, for a little while. If you have let your kids play these games already, it's too late. I don't think you can go back and try to take them away. It's not going to work. But if you haven't, I hope that you will be strong and not allow that in your house. Every time I see something about a shooting or yeah, I mean, any acts of violence, whether it's against elderly people or, strangers or people that they know, when kids kill their parents, their families, their siblings because they get in a fight. I mean, I really feel like there's a reason why. Okay, sometimes there's no reason, right? That happens, of course. There's zero environmental stimulus that could have predicted or made that come to fruition. But in a lot of cases, I think there's a very direct tie to violent video games that the kids spent, you know, hundreds of hours a week playing from a very young age that allowed them to easily disassociate real death and real life and real people from these games and these moments of excitement that comes from hunting down somebody and planning out an attack and like effectively winning at executing their attack or whatever it is. So it's something that I like to lecture on, as you can see. So that's my lecture for the day, one of many, right? Okay, so another topic that is much lighter and much more fun and exciting for me is solar panels. Okay, so we do not have solar in our house. We live in California. We have very clear access to the sky and sunlight. So for the past probably 15 years, we've been talking about installing solar panels, and we have not done it. And we've just been kind of lazy. And it's like one of those projects that we'll get to eventually. And I think part of it is because when we bought this house 21 years ago, 22 years ago, we put in a new roof. And so I think in the back of our minds, it was sort of like, well, when we replace the roof, then we'll do the solar panels at the same time. But our roof is actually still in really good shape, and so we've just not been in any rush to do it, and my husband was concerned that adding the solar panels might, damage the roof, might open up, new holes, opportunities for water to get through, things like that, so we just put it off. However, in California, we use a Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, and they are about to change, um, one of their policies, rules, laws, I don't know what it is, what you would call it. I think it's called NEMS 2.0, but basically, um, when you have solar and you are generating energy on an individual level, like at your house, you obviously can use it. You can store it if you have a battery, or if you don't use it all, you can feed it back into the grid and give it back to PG&E and they can use it, right? And they can sell it to other neighbors, whatever. Okay, so if you own your system, any excess power that you generate that you're not using and that you feed back into the grid, you get paid for. They pay you for that. And right now, today, they pay the same amount that they charge. So if they charge me $1 for this much energy, then they will pay me $1 for that same amount of energy if I give it back to them. So it's equal 1-to-1 ratio. However, in about 2 weeks, they are changing it and they are going to be going down to a rate. They're changing it by like it'll be basically a fifth. They're going to pay essentially 20 cents on the dollar of what they charge. So if they charge me $1 for X amount of energy, if I give them that same amount of energy back, they only pay me 20 cents ish, something like that. It's around there. So now everybody who hasn't had solar installed yet is scrambling to get into this current rate, right? We've got to get it done. We've got 2 weeks to make this happen. So for the past week and a half, 2 weeks, I've been talking to solar companies. I've done some research on it. We've had the presentations, we got our proposals, and we have committed to a company that is going to install solar on our house. Now we're also building the lake house in Northern California that we don't have we're not ready yet for the solar, but it's part of the code requirements, the building requirements that that new house must run off of solar energy. I don't know if that's true for all of California or if it's by county or by city or what, but this particular house where it's located, it's required that we have solar. And I believe it's required that we have a battery backup. And essentially, the house is going to be primarily electric. We are gonna have a gas line put in, but it's super expensive to add, and they're really discouraging it and making it kinda difficult, but anyways, so I'm also trying to get that contract in place in the next week or 2 because from what I understand, as long as we get the paperwork started and we get it submitted to PG&E before the deadline, and then PG&E can, approve it. I don't know if it has to be approved before the deadline or as long as they've received it before the deadline, but we just kind of have to lock it in now, even though we're not gonna actually be physically installing them on the roof for a couple months probably, just because of the backlog. So if, you are in California and if you use PG&E and you have thought about solar, but you do not yet have solar, now might be the time to, do some of that investigation and commit. We're running out of time here. The company that I'm talking to said that Tuesday of this week was the last day that they could guarantee approval. So we signed by Tuesday, and most of the companies have a deadline of like either April 1st or April 5th that they won't be taking any new contracts after that. So, um, I kind of late to the game to tell you this, and hopefully everybody who wants solar has it or is in the process of getting it right now because um, you're gonna be losing a lot of money if you wait just for the sake of waiting. Like, if there's no real reason to wait, then I would encourage you to make this happen ASAP. But, that's not gonna be the case for everybody. So, just putting it out there as something to amuse, think about while, doing your other fun stuff this weekend. Okay, so we are going to take a one more quick break, and then I'm going to go into some of my shows. I've got a couple new shows that have been um, on my mind, and we will talk about that when we get back. Hey, we're back. For those of you just joining, you missed some fascinating conversation about um, video games and solar panels. And what was the other thing I talked about? Gosh, it was so long ago, I don't even remember. Um, Skilled labor, that's right, tradesmen. Okay, so now I want to just share some other random musings. One of the things that I almost forgot to tell you is that my app is officially launched. So I think I've mentioned this a little bit over past weeks, but I've been working on this app for about 7 or 8 months now. And it's finally at the point where I feel comfortable telling people that they can go download it and actually use it because it's pretty usable at the moment. It's called Rank Watcher, and the website is rank hyphen watcher.com, rank hyphen watcher.com. It is for it's really designed for authors who like to watch their book rank on Amazon. So it specifically tracks the rank of Amazon books. It has to have an ASIN, which is the number that Amazon assigns to all the books in their on their site. Actually, maybe they assign it to every product, but specifically for books. And so it is essentially a list tracker. So as an author, if you have like 5 books, you can make a list of just your books and you would put in the ASIN of each of your books. And then as often as you want, every day, every hour, on a release day, you might be watching it every 20 minutes when Amazon makes their updates, you're checking it too. Um, for me, I don't really check my ranks really ever, but maybe once a week or once a month, I might pull it up and take a quick look. But um, it will, it has an API that will go to Amazon, pull all the ranks for any books in your list, and then display them and rank them in order. So if a book gets, to the top of a category or is has a lower rank because in this case lower's better, right? We want to get to number 1, so we want the lowest rank possible. So as a book gets lower in the charts, it actually gets higher on your list. So the lowest is at the top and then the book that ranks the worst is at the bottom. And so it just kind of moves around and it does the heavy lifting for you. So you don't have to constantly be going to Amazon, pulling up, doing a search for each of your books, and then looking at them individually. You've got it nicely in a list. There's a free option that is for one list, and you can add a couple books to that. And if that's all you have, that's all you're interested in, then that's great. If you have many books or you are interested in lots of lists, like maybe you'll do a list of just your new releases or just your books from this year or by series. If you have several series, then maybe you would do one list per series. and just kind of keep an eye on the rank that way. Or if you're watching, if there's some competitors that write very similar books to yours and you want to see how your new release compares against their new release, and maybe you're neck and neck and going back and forth with each other. So that's always fun. But yeah, so Rank Watcher is now available on the Apple Store and on the Google Play App Store for Android users. And yeah, you can get it for free or you can pay for the additional lists. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about are some of my new shows. Always have new shows that are on my mind. So, my son and I watched Night Agent this week. It is on Netflix and it's trending this week. So, it must be pretty new. I think there are 10 episodes total. It's just one season so far, but I hope it does well enough that they extend it and do another season. It's about a guy who works for the FBI, and he is he's what they call a night agent. And so he sits in this little windowless room on the overnight shift, which is probably graveyard or something like that, and he just waits for the phone to ring, and the phone only rings if there's, like, an emergency situation. So he gets a call, there's an emergency, and he's gotta go save the day, and there's a girl, and it ends up, kind of being a love story and lots of action and lots of excitement. So that is one that we have really enjoyed. We just watched the last episode last night, and yeah, I hope that they have another season of it. He got a new the main character, he got a new job, so I think that means that they're planning to extend it, so that's exciting. Another show that I've been watching, just for the past few nights, and I'm only a couple episodes in, so I'm not very deep yet, but I think it's gonna be, a favorite. It's called Unstable. It's with Rob Lowe. So he plays this very eccentric billionaire type, and not like Elon Musk eccentric. It's more like I guess his wife recently died and he's just like grieving in his own way. And he's very kind of new agey granola. I don't know how you would describe him, but um really a fun character. And his son, who has kind of an estranged relationship. His son comes home to help him through his grieving and sort of help him get past this like weird place that he's in his life. And so it's kind of silly. It's silly humor. It's a comedy for sure, and it's not one of those. There's not really anything bad, so you could watch it with the kids. Not little kids, like, for me, when I say kids, I mean, like, teenagers, so I think it's, rated 14 and up, so there isn't anything really bad, but, there's references to things that, probably not appropriate for young kids, um, but it's a good one to watch when everyone's gone to bed, and I can just, have a fun show. Another show that I have been watching, that I don't know if I've talked about this in the past yet, is gosh, now I don't even remember the name of it. It's like Bake Squad, and there's, like, celebrity bakers, and they're given these challenges to create these, like, crazy dessert items, and, I mean, it's amazing. If you haven't seen how really talented bakers what they can do when they put their creativity to the test, man. I mean, they can go crazy. So that's been an interesting one if you like the baking shows. I love the baking shows. The problem is I'm really a very sympathetic, like, hungry person. Taste tester, I guess. And when I watch these chocolates and these cakes and these mousse desserts and all these different things, I just really want to eat them. So I end up like baking a batch of cookies or having a 2 a.m. snack that I don't really need. So I have to be careful about how often I indulge in the baking shows, but that's a fun one. Um, and so let's see, the last thing that I've been doing this week, and this is also exciting. I don't want to go into too much detail about it yet because it's still early days, but I'm working on a project called Fulfilled After 40. It is a part of my life coaching program, and it's for women over the age of 40. So whether that means 50s, 60s, 70s, any age, and even approaching 40, we're not strict about age. But the point is for women that are maybe in their next chapter of their life, their kids are grown up or more independent and they don't need as much mom time and they don't really know what to do with themselves. I realized in the early days of COVID, a lot of my friends whose whole lives revolved around socializing with their people and socializing with their kids' people, whether that was the teams, the clubs, the different sports, the school stuff, whatever, like they relied on this socialization revolving around their kids. And when they didn't have that anymore, they didn't really know what to do with themselves. They were kind of lost. And I think that led to um, even more anxiety and depression in some people. I mean, it was such a stressful time, and there was already so many things to worry about and so many stressors in all of our lives that for the people who didn't have a solid outlet, um, they struggled more. So for me, I have, as you know, I have lots of things going on, so I was never bored. I never had downtime. I never worried about what I'm going to do next or how I'm going to fill my day or how I'm going to be important. What's important to me or how am I going to make a difference in anybody's life because I have tons of things to do. So I never had that, but I am excited to start working with women who are at that stage where they're looking at what's next and how do they get there and how do they kind of break some of maybe the bad habits that they've created over the past 20 years, and turn those into more creative outlets and opportunities to pursue the passions and the interests. And this might be learning a new language, taking some of those trips that we talk about doing someday, actually doing them and making stuff happen, not waiting any longer for the things that we think we can do eventually someday because we all know that someday is not guaranteed. And those stories about people who retire at 65 and drop dead the next day of a heart attack or some tragic thing like that, um, they were probably waiting for someday to take those trips and to learn the languages and to learn how to build stuff or paint or follow whatever passions they have. So we do not want to be in that boat. And I am making it a personal mission to help women specifically who just need permission to get to that next stage in their life and um, put themselves first and um, follow the dreams that maybe they put on hold while they were raising their family and to now make time for themselves. So that was already more than I wanted to say on that because it's still early days and I've just barely got the framework of a website going. I really don't have offer much on offer yet, but getting there. So we will have a full talk about that someday in the near future. But for now, we are getting to the point where we are running out of time. It's been so much fun. Today managed to get in a lot more random things than usual. Usually I've just got a handful of things. Today I think probably fit in 6 or 7 different things. So, fun for me because I've got it all off my chest. When people ask me why I do this, and who listens to it. I have no idea who might be listening, but for me, it's just a fun way to talk to talk about all the crazy in my head and hope that there's at least one person that thinks something is funny or interesting or useful in some way. Um, and so I'm looking forward to sharing more with you next time. And until then, I hope that I've inspired you to um, do something interesting, try something new, and investigate something of interest. And we'll talk about it soon. So this time, goodbye from your host and resident super doer, Kris Kendall. And we'll talk soon. Now, go do something.
Thanks for tuning into Musings of a Super Doer with Christina Kendall. We hope you've enjoyed today's show and look forward to having you back next week. Until then, have a beautiful week.